out their presentation abstract, and after that you can listen to their presentation. Despite the reported rapid increase in the numbers of ethnic minority populations in the USA, there has not been a proportionate increase in the numbers of physical therapists and occupational therapists. Data from the APTA showed that the number of ethnic minority students enrolled in PT programs only increased by 0.5% from 1997 to 2006. An even more distributing fact is that in this age of information and emphasis on the quality, equal opportunity, the APOTE reported a decrease in the percentage of African American occupational therapy students from 7.8% in 2004 to 2005 to 6.9% in 2006. This presentation will report on the findings and implications of a mixed method study examining the level of knowledge, interest in, and the self-perceived career potential for PT and OT as a career choice. Surveys were administered to a convenient sample of 150 high school and college students, 70% of which were unrepresented minorities. The data collected was coded and analyzed by using the SPSS. Results of the study showed a very limited understanding of the role of a physical therapist among the respondents, with only 23% of all students able to describe accurately what a physical therapist did and only 18% among ethnic minorities respondents. The level of understanding of the role of PT was evaluated by scoring the descriptions the respondents gave on a 5-point Likert scale. The scale used the professional definitions of PT and OT as the guide for the scoring. Limited knowledge about the professions existed despite about 50% of the minority respondents reporting that having had an encounter with a physical therapist when undergoing treatment for self or others. 78% of the minority respondents could not perceive themselves as able to become a PT, citing barriers such as amount and level of education required. Personality incompatibility with the profession, lack of knowledge about the profession, and the lack of interest due to previous career choice. An even more disparate situation was found within the OT profession, with only 2% of respondents able to describe accurately the role of profession and none expressing interest in the profession. PT and OT continue to be identified as excellent, decision-proof professional opportunities in the current and the future job market. With the current economic situation and highest job losses being in the most of the jobs that the minority students identified with, this seems to be a strategic time for the PT and OT professions to refocus our recruitment strategies to tap into this pool of potential applicants. Considering the racial disparities in the health and the significant role that PT and OT plays in health promotion and wellness, this knowledge gap cannot be allowed to persist. There is a need to not only expand our outreach or professional education programs, but make them more responsive to the culture, economic, and the social realities of minority populations for increased identification with these professions. And this is the abstract, and I introduced them to explain the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, that was a presentation.
Yes, that was a presentation in a glimpse. Okay. So, as she already said, I'm Priska, and that's Cynthia. So what we're going to try to do is just kind of like give you a little glimpse of what we call a group of young people who have been left behind when it comes to, drawing them into the occupational and physical therapy professions as a career. So today we will report on the findings of study that we did last year, examining the level of knowledge and interest in physical therapy and occupational therapy as a career, and also looking at the self-perceived career potential for physical therapists and occupational therapists as a career choice among underrepresented minority students. And first of all, we just want to thank the Dean of our College of Health and Human Services, who gave us a mini grant to do this, to be able to do this study. And also I just want to highlight that this study was kind of birthed out of the minority recruitment and retention program that we have been involved in at in the physical therapy department. As part of this program, when we would go to career fairs and talk to students from underrepresented minority students from some of the high schools or colleges, and anytime we kind of mentioned occupational therapy or physical therapy, they'll give you this blank stare like, what planet did you just fall from? So we were kind of shocked to see that, and then that's when we decided that, well, we would like to, do a survey to find out how much they really know about this profession. So we administered surveys to 2 high schools in the Chicago area, and 9 colleges and 3 universities, and 1 African American community activist group. We'll talk more about those. And of course, the study was approved by the IRB committee here at GSU.
Our research questions, as you can see, were multifolded, and we knew we needed to investigate them both quantitative and qualitatively. We need to look at the variation of the level of knowledge. So not just a blank of do you know OT or PT, but get a little more in depth, and to look at it based on ethnicity in terms of the findings. We were interested in finding out how the professions are defined by the population, and what are the implications for this. In other words, if someone really has a misinterpreted understanding of OT or PT, then there is implications, as to how that will play out. What is the relationship between having a personal encounter with a therapist and describing that professional adequately? The next slide looks at another 3 questions. Under what context do the students encounter a physical therapist or occupational therapist? And again, what are the implications for this? Is there a relationship between a personal encounter with an OT or PT and an individual's interest in the professions? And lastly, what careers do they already have identified for themselves? So those were our research questions.
So now the question always comes to say, anyway, we do have PTs and OTs around and all that kind of stuff, so why do we even need to pay attention to this? Well, as we all know, that the population of ethnic minorities in the U.S. is rapidly increasing, and there are some projections that actually by like 2050, the minorities might actually be the majority. So that's one reason to really begin to look at this closely. And also the very fact that despite this increase, these populations still continue to be underrepresented in OT and PT. And as we go along and show you some of the slides, some of the things that you'll see is that actually in some areas it's almost like instead of the numbers increasing, they're actually going backwards as the years go by. So, and also the fact that disparities related to race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status are still very common, and they are observed in almost all aspects of healthcare. And this came out of the Office of Minority Health Disparities Report of 2009 to say that these ethnic health disparities looks like they are not going anywhere, and minorities have been identified as one of the solutions in addressing the racial and ethnic disparities that are related to things such as stereotyping, prejudice or bias, and patient mistrust and refusal of treatment. So, and in light of that, it's been shown that let's go back to that.